Good afternoon, viewers, and welcome to Matters of Public Importance on Channel 6. I'm yours, Gail Teixeira, Opposition Parliamentary Chief Whip, representing the People's Progressive Party Civic and the People's Progressive Party. On this program, we shall focus on matters of public importance, bringing you information, discussion on issues and matters that have concern to you, the Guyanese public, every Thursday between 12:30 and 1:30 on Channel 6. Let me just remind you of the numbers for the call-in part of the program. We are starting late, and we do apologize for that. We had a press conference just before, and so 225-0010 and 225-008. 225-008. I've always informed you and remind you about the Office of the Leader of the Opposition being open from Monday to Saturday, and that you're welcome to come to the office to seek assistance, to meet with people there. And we're open from about 9 to 5:30 every afternoon, Monday to Friday, and on Saturday from 9:30 to about 1:30. And you will meet persons there who can guide you, represent you, and so forth. So we wish to thank you for coming here, coming to our office. And please remember, because you voted for another party does not mean that you cannot come to our office. We're open, we're elected by the people of this country, and we're there to represent all the people of the country. To remind you of Freedom Radio that is operating, in the next program I will tell you about the kind of call-in programs you can call there too. But Freedom Radio, 91.1, Demerara FM, of course, 90.5 Berbice, and 90.7 Esquivel. Today is May the 11th, 2017. 2 years ago, from 6 o'clock in the morning, the voters of Guyana went to the polls to elect their government for the next 5 years. Yes, my friends, it is 2 years since that eventful day. And of course, the government has called it Social Cohesion Day, the same day that they believe that because they won, it is therefore socially cohesive. But after 1 week, in that period, May 11th to May 16th, was an extraordinarily tense and determining week for our country. After 1 week of the elections and denial of recounts at regional and national levels by GCOM, we were left with the APNU plus AFC coalition winning by less than 1 percentage point and 33 seats in Parliament on May the 16th, 2015. As you know, an election petition, almost 2 years old, is languishing in the courts. And now there's no court of appeal, as there's only one judge appointed. And I believe that you know that we are still waiting on the Judicial Service Commission and the President, who has held up the appointment of these judges for the last 9-10 months. So the case is stuck there. In any parliamentary democracy, election petition is supposed to be held with expedition. And we've seen other countries, including our neighboring Trinidad, have their election petition heard and dispensed with quickly. Today, to help me assess the second anniversary, May the 16th, 2015, of the APNU in office are my colleagues, MPs Bishop Edghill and Dr. Frank Anthony. You know, the APNU AFC coalition promised a fresh start and a time to change. Their manifesto stated they would be inclusive, clean up government, clean up corruption, being more efficient. They promised the good life. Well, where are we today? Are we experiencing the good life? And I want in this program to focus on a couple of areas. The issue of inclusivity, the issue of corruption, and we'll pass slightly on to the economy, just in passing, as well as intimidation and bullyism. And in fact, what we believe is a move towards a police state in this country. As I said earlier, isn't it ironic that today, May the 13th, is Social Cohesion Day?
May 11th.
May the 11th, sorry, Social Cohesion Day. What did I say?
13th.
13th. This day was deliberately chosen, as I said, to coincide with Election Day. Do you feel as if you're living in a more socially cohesive society? Let us look at the practice and not the rhetoric of the government. Of course, Mr. Trotman added to the rhetoric today to say, yes, we didn't quite do what we do, but be patient. But you know, we heard that on May Day. And I'll come to the May Day issue, but May Day, Ms. Amna Ali said, you know, that be patient. The good life will come. It's only 2 years. Mr. Trotman said at May Day, it is time for the trade unions to support fully all the initiatives of the government. So what he's saying, boys and girls in the labor movement, you know, you have to pull in line and not be difficult. Well, you know, let us look at a couple of things. We have consultations, and they're always talking about consultations. But there are two forms of consultation. no consultation or consultation with those the government thinks are politically correct. If you're not in the good books, you're excluded. And so you see with the Commission of Lands and all these issues that there's no consultation with the National Two Showers Council, for example. And we are seeing more open state-sponsored ethnic and political discrimination reminiscent of 30 or more years ago. This program has pointed out, for example, the number of people who lost their jobs and were terminated in the 2 years of this government, heads of department, permanent secretaries, all the way to the cleaners and drivers in the public service. So you have heard those figures, but the figures are over 2,000 going on 3,000. Remember that they said that the public servants cannot be candidates in elections, and that was the reason why they terminated over 100 people in the regions and central government. And then, you know, they expect you to have amnesia all the time. They really believe the Guyanese people don't remember things. But I want to tell them the Guyanese people have memories like elephants. They don't forget anything. And then, so they said that, big hurrah in June, July in 2015. And then lo and behold, they replaced all those persons they dismissed who were candidates or considered to be PPP with APNU AFC candidates in top positions as advisors, heads of department, and heads of agencies. And you know they introduced new taxes without consultation and have refused up to Monday to respond to public outcries in relation to VAT on essential items, VAT on education, VAT on water, electricity, health, etc. And they've removed concessions and incentives for agricultural development, the mining and the forestry sector. And you are well aware that they still have the GTDMA, the Guyana Gold and Diamond Miners Association, the movement against the parking meters, the partnership against VAT on education, teachers, nurses, public servants on salaries and benefits. All of these people are waiting for their day to meet the relevant minister and or the president. And of course, they refused to hear the appeals of 20,000 sugar workers and have decided to close 3 estates. No consultation with the union, no going down to the communities and explaining to the people what's this grand design for sugar. And then, of course, we have the setting up of new townships without consultation with those communities. And we have also the proof on that the Amerindian villages in Lethem, Bartica, Mabaruma have not been consulted on the new townships, much of which encroaches on land that has been given to them. And now we're seeing the same thing with Madia, where it will be encroaching on an Amerindian village. And of course, the seizure of people's lands, the revocation of people's leases that were gainfully employed and occupied. This lack of consultation is the precursor to a dictatorial, bullyism, intimidatory approach to what's going on. We just finished a press conference dealing with corruption on this 2nd anniversary. You know, they came out hot and heavy. They were going to clean up the corruption of the PPP and have a clean government. What is the reality? Well, you know, on this program in August 2016, before we went to the October 2016 to expose the 25 scandals, we gave it out here on this program, where there were 25 scandals. At no time in the life of the PPP successive governments has there been any such number of scandals over a period of 23 years. And this is a government that is less than 2 years, 15 months, was showing 25 scandals. Well, the scandals have gone up to 30 between now and then. And as we said, they've had forensic audits looking for what they claim were $30 billion we'd stolen. What they've come up with is $10,000 that cannot be accounted for into agencies. And we can talk about the scandals that have existed here. And so to go to the third point, which is intimidation and bullyism, and then my colleagues will come in and talk. The intimidation of the judiciary, and there's umpteen cases of statements by the Attorney General in regard to judges and magistrates. The recent case of the complaint of the Justice Holt in regards to behavior of the Attorney General in his court, and lo and behold, the Prime Minister writes a letter saying that the judge must recuse himself, and the judge recused himself. And so now that whole case that had to do with Carvel Duncan will now be somewhere in Never Never Land. We've seen the charging of Anil Nandalan. Big furor, big hullabaloo, arrest and hold him in Soko and then take him to court, and the magistrate didn't want to hear the case. They sent him back to Sokol in one day, send him back to the court to find another magistrate on the instructions of the Chief Justice. And what happened on Monday? They brought the gentleman to court again. Mr. Nandalal appeared with his lawyers, only to find out the prosecutor hasn't got the evidence. They haven't finished their work. So can you imagine this country? They're charging you and embarrassing you without any evidence that you did something wrong. And of course, to add to that, you know what do you call it? You got to itch and it's getting worse and worse. You keep itching it and you keep making it worse. Now they've announced that they have a list of 200 people who will not be allowed to leave the country with no charges against them. So they made it clear. We can make up this list of 200 people. We don't like your face. We think you're PPP. You think you're so-and-so and whatever. And we just put your name down and immigration will be given this list, which will be updated from time to time. Immigration doesn't know why you're being held. They're just told, don't let you leave the country. And so these are all very dangerous signs in relation to our democracy. And of course, they've used the Guyana Revenue Authority, the SARU, and the SOKU to intimidate and threaten people. In Parliament on Monday, they kept saying they'll lock us up. Well, you know what? The PPP has been through trials and tribulations from the day we were formed 65 years ago. This is not 67 years. Yeah, 67 years. Now I've lost track. I'm thinking of my age, which is coming up. Sorry about that. But 67 years ago, our whole history has been one of struggle, of being intimidated, of being bullied, of having people arrested at 4 o'clock in the morning in their bakta and disappeared for 2 weeks, can't be found, going to habeas corpus. We have done it. We've been through it. And there's nothing that the PPP is going to buckle and whimper for this government, to allow them to go through what they're doing without having a voice and without fighting for our rights. And of course, the intimidation of the NGOs, non-governmental organizations and individuals. Every time someone criticizes the government publicly, they become under attack. The National Two Shouts Council has a press conference, the first time that they're being very assertive. And what are they called by the Vice President, the Minister of Indigenous Affairs? That they're having a frolic, and that this is something that they shouldn't have done. Of course, the GGDMA is under licks and fire for daring to say that they can't produce all the gold that is needed, which is the only thing sustaining this economy. So the economy we've discussed in one whole program here of what is going on and how they've damaged the economy. The question I ask you, how could this government take an economy and a country that was stable economically, showing progress, had 8 years of consecutive economic growth, where there was hope and people were planning their lives, take that and in less than 2 years unravel the whole thing so that our economy is descending at a rapid pace, the cost of living has increased, and the quality of life of our people is descending, and where the majority of people feel really worried and uncertain about the future, their own jobs, their families, their children, and the future of this country. So we have, on this eve, the eve of May the 16th, we have some very serious matters to discuss, and we'll come to, then let me ask Frank to go first, Dr. Frank Anthony and my colleague MP, and also Dr. Bishop Edghill.
Well, thank you very much. I think, we have witnessed 2 years of a lot of trouble in our country, and we've listed some of them. But what it amounts to is it's affecting people.
Yeah.
It's affecting how people are living. I think when they were campaigning, the coalition were telling people that they were going to have change, they're going to have a better life. But I don't think this was the kind of change that people wanted. And obviously now, if you talk to almost anyone, they would tell you this was not the change they expected. And they're very, very disappointed in this coalition. So I was, not so long ago, I was in some of the sugar areas. And when you listen to the workers there, a lot of them are hopeless about what is going on. They feel this betrayal because the government would have told them at one point that, look, if you voted for us, we're going to give you a 20% increase. Over the last 2 years, these people did not get their annual production incentive. something that they've gotten for over 60-something years, non-stop, every year they were given it. This government has unilaterally abolished the annual production incentive. And this is how they're treating workers. They tell them one story when they want people to vote for them, and when they're now in the seat of power, they have betrayed them completely. And sugar workers is just one example. Then the closure of the estates. Can you imagine the devastation that is visited upon all these communities? We have seen what is happening at Wales Estate. At Wales, literally thousands of people now, the workers are out of a job, thousands of people, the mothers, the fathers, the children, they don't have a job. How are they going to make a living? And the government has not put up an alternative plan of how they're going to employ people. They haven't settled with Wales as yet. The people at Wales, they're entitled to what is called severance pay.
Right.
That has not, the government went there to that community and said to the people they don't have money to pay severance, but they got money to pay themselves a fat salary.
Exactly.
But they're not paying
And
the workers, and they're not paying the workers. Now, they haven't settled that issue with Wales. They haven't helped the people at Wales. Now we understand from this state paper that they've presented. And today, you know, they have a whole page ad, a two-page ad in all the newspapers. And one of the things that they're very proud about, they have produced a state paper on sugar. Well, the state paper on sugar is telling people that thousands of people are going to be sent home. Imagine on the East Coast and more. You're going to send home thousands of workers there. The whole of the East Coast is going to be affected. At Rose Hall, you're sending home thousands of people. And they're proud of this state paper. It seems that they're proud of visiting upon people hardships.
I think so.
You know,
Maybe it's a masochistic
I don't know.
aspect of the government we haven't addressed yet.
Yeah, maybe that's something that we need to look at.
Psychoanalyze, like people are psychoanalyzing President Trump, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Maybe we should do that here.
we need to do that because somehow they're doing all these crazy things that affect people's life in a very negative way. And then they put that up as if it's something good that they've done. How can you send home thousands of workers and put that as an achievement? It's not an achievement. Because if you're looking at development just only in dollars and cents, and you're not thinking about people's welfare, that's what government should be doing.
Yeah.
People's welfare, looking after people. You're sending home thousands of people, then something is definitely wrong with the approach to governance in this country. Rice is another issue. Then when you come to things like health, the health sector is in crisis. People cannot get basic medication at any one of the institutions. When doctors see patients, they have to write a prescription. If they have 5 items on the prescription, most of it you cannot get at the hospitals. And yet, we are told that the government is spending more and more monies. So if you're spending more and more money, they're probably spending more money than any time when we were in government. Perhaps the population is getting sicker because of all the stress that they have to suffer with this government. So I think, you know, 2 years and all we have to show is a lot of negative things. And I don't think this is the kind of change that people voted for, and people have been talking about that.
Yes, thank you, Frank. Bishop, we're very pleased to both gentlemen. They've been on the program before, and I'm glad to have them here again with me.
Thank you, Madam Teixeira, and good afternoon, viewers. I want to remind that 2 years ago, the choir was singing. The sermons of change were being preached. The prayer rallies were being held. The taxi drivers were driving the streets and tooting their horns to wake up people to go and vote for change. The young people were riled up and told about how they will get jobs and their future will be bright. Our women folk, especially in the urban center, were thinking that the dreams of their lifetime will be achieved by getting rid of the PPPC. I want to begin my presentation this afternoon by asking all of the parties and persons concerned, do you still hold that same position 2 years hence? Well, this was the argument that was made. The PPP is evil. The PPP is corrupt. The PPP is racist. The PPP is wicked. The APNU, as a matter of fact, some of my goodly friends in the religious community said, Moses and David will bring salvation to Guyana.
Biblical names.
Biblical names, Moses and David. And as a matter of fact, people even use that as part of their campaign rhetoric and appealing to people.
That's right.
Now, 2 years after, I live in Georgetown, and I live among people who supported the APNU AFC government. Hear what they tell me every day. If you go to the barbershop, y'all make us get these people out. You go to the market, y'all got to do something, nothing ain't going on. You stand up on the road just to say hello to your neighbor, somebody passing by, they stop. What y'all doing? These were the same people who were waving green and yellow flags.
Right.
So I'm going to ask the question 2 years after. Where are all the green and yellow boards gone? Where are the sermons? Where are the prayer rallies? Why the silence? You know why the silence? Because what has taken over this land? Despair, disappointment. People are disillusioned and a sense of hopelessness.
You could add another D, David.
And we have David, of course, to deal with. Ladies and gentlemen, we come here, and I want to say to all my biblical friends, all those who campaigned and worked hard and preached and testified and prayed about this godly government, this divine destiny for Guyana that you need the APNU AFC to lead the country. Well, let me tell you what the Bible says. By your fruits you shall know them. So even if you didn't know the tree, after 2 years, the fruits are being born. What are we seeing? The fruit of corruption in a manner that we have never ever seen or experienced in the history of this country. I'm not talking here about a policeman taking bribe. No. I'm not talking about a customs officer taking the money to let something pass, or somebody taking $6,000 to help you with a birth certificate. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking here about massive corruption that is entrenched, aided and abetted by the APNU AFC cabinet. Just not too long ago, we just finished talking about just public procurement in
Health sector.
Pharmaceuticals and medical supplies. Ladies and gentlemen, more than $4 billion of your money has been spent in 12 months, 12, 13 months, without any form of tendering. You know what? Where it went? It went to political investors. Persons who financed the campaign had to get back money, so they give them deals. They give them deals. And Dr. Anthony just told you, the money is spent, but you ain't getting no drugs in the hospital. Massive corruption. Durban Park. Oh, you remember we spoke about this. More than $1 billion spent from the public treasury. We were told that Durban Park was being financed by private individuals.
And donors.
And I want to ask all the churches who are now using Durban Park for their crusades and their prayer meetings and all the rest of it. Don't you have anything to say when you go there with those wooden bleachers that will collapse shortly, where billions of dollars were spent without any tender process, just handpicking and giving it out to contractors and friends, which is, and I don't know how much had to come back to who and for what. I wouldn't want to get involved in that. But what I can tell you, I know no process was followed. Yeah. The monies were not properly spent and accounted for, and there was corruption. You had the Sussex Street bond, a man who is a campaign financier, receive an advance of his rent of $25 million
to buy the property
for $25 million. and to rent it to the government for $14 million a month. Oh, where are the prayer rallies? Where are the yellow and red flags? The green and yellow flags. Where are the choirs that are singing? Where are the winds of change that is blowing, that we were singing in our conferences, in our conventions, when we were demonizing the PPP? Where are those songs? Do you still share the same view? The people who used to shout at me, Madam Teixeira and Dr. Anthony, the PPP got to go! The PPP got to go! The PPP got to go! When they meet Edghill now, here they're saying, Edghill, y'all do something. Y'all do something.
Well, we
y'all
are.
do something. Well, we will do something. And this is what we want to say. We're not upset with you. We ain't vexed with you. We ain't condemning you. It's that you didn't know better. You ain't had nothing to compare with. Because you said the PPP, they're on there too long. The PPP, they're on there 23 years. Give them a chance. The man selling the coconut water told me he used to eat under the PPP. I went to the Memorial Gardens for a funeral, and the man selling soft drink and biscuit and so on outside in the cemetery met myself and Comrade Roy and said, "Bye, y'all do something. We used to eat. Nothing is happening." Comrades, we know that you were deceived. We know you were duped. We know you were hoodwinked. And that is why on this second anniversary of the election, the PPPC is still saying to you, our arms are open wide. Come home, work with us, because we are on a journey of taking this country back to prosperity and to ensure that every Guyanese feel a part. Let's talk about this hogwash. Excuse my language for being so strong.
It's not unparliamentary. So
it's
okay.
not unparliamentary. I'm not in parliament. I'm on television. This hogwash of social cohesion that they're talking about. Let's talk about this. Have our country ever been so divided? I chaired the Ethnic Relations Commission from 2003 to 2011. Dr. Frank Anthony was my deputy chairman until 2006. And we went all across this country. Every village, every community, every region. And we did work. We talked to the people. The people told us what were their problems. Nothing in comparison to what is taking place now. When you have a set of people shouting, "It's we time now," we could do what we want. And you know, Comrade Gail and Dr. Frank, what really bothers me? The government don't seem to want to debate any issue.
No.
They don't have to give an explanation to anybody about anything. We got to vote, so we're going to do it.
Yep.
They can't even bring an argument. At first I thought they didn't believe in themselves. That is why they were afraid of going to special select committees.
Yes.
So they couldn't really defend their bills and their programs in the face of us. But no, they don't, not even to their own supporters. The miners have to write a full-page ad week after week to get the message to the president. The people to get the city council to respond and the government to do something with the parking meters have to sacrifice lunch for 7-8 weeks and stand up in front of City Hall protesting. Parents, teachers, and students who are against VAT on private education have to take the sun with their umbrellas week after week, only to hear a government say, "Next year we're going to look at it." The private sector have to express concern. Sugar workers all across the country, rice farmers. I have never seen so much protest in this country in all of my life in 2 years. I mean, the only people left to protest is the government.
I think even them protested.
I believe sooner or later you'll have some government ministers protesting against themselves.
Yes.
Everybody is protesting. Housewives, used tire dealers, hired car drivers, rice farmers, gold miners,
Sugar workers.
Rice workers.
Yeah.
Everybody is protesting.
Parking.
Meters. Just 2 years. What has gone wrong? Let me tell you what has gone wrong. If you cheat to get there, you got a forced course upon you. You have no legitimacy to be there in the first place, and the insecurity in them, they don't know how long they're going to be there for, so they got to grab whatever they got. One great preacher, and sorry that I have to talk about my preachers on this program, define greed this way: the fear of shortage. They don't know how long they're going to be ministers, so they got to increase the salary to make sure they get as much money as possible. When they travel overseas, they're bringing back bills and so more. So traveling overseas has become a fundraiser for ministers because they don't have to account for the monies that they utilize. They get a cabinet paper. It's not an advance, it's a final payment. So large amounts of money is accompanying every minister when they leave this country to go overseas, and they don't have to bring back bills, hotel bills, nothing to show
No
how
receipts.
they spend the money,
No
or
receipts.
no receipts or anything of the sort. So that's one way of
and
which
they
they're
got a bigger
enriching.
budget now for
and
that.
they have a bigger budget now for that. So they're enriching themselves to that. And ladies and gentlemen,
No,
let
but
me-
they are saying, though, the rhetoric are saying is that they're going to win the next elections.
Uh-huh.
They're going to come back in the next elections. And Mr. Trotman, as head of the AFC, said that they are doing very well as a party, as part of the coalition, and their numbers have not declined, and that they are going to come back and win in 2020.
All of
so,
that is gaff.
Of course it's gaff, but also we know the wickedness of the 2015 elections with the tampering of the results. So that we have to watch that, or whether that's an indication that they are going to try to rig the elections again.
But the point that needs to be made, if you are doing so much that is damaging people's lives and livelihood,
Yeah.
they must have some sinister plan to remain in power, if not through the ballot box. Because if you are hurting people, you are affecting people, you're destroying communities,
Taxing people.
you're taxing people, and you're putting people through all this pressure. In any free and fair election, the people will tell you to go.
Yeah.
So if they're behaving like if they're staying, they must have some other plan of how they're going to stay in
Exactly.
power. But I'm sure the popular movement of the people of Guyana, led by the People's Progressive Party Civic, will not allow such folly to continue to remain in our land. So the raping of the public treasury is because of their own personal fear and insecurity. They don't know how long they're going to be here. They're doing everything so wicked. I couldn't imagine how we could get so low so fast. I could imagine 5 years, you decline, but so fast? 2 years, and we are here.
Yeah.
It shows the
But we
they
warn
came
the
in-
people.
Yeah.
We warn people. Sorry, Frank. We warn people. But we've had to say that even though we warn people, that with the military combination, with the attitude and the racism and everything else, that they were going to behave like this. We warn people this
Yes,
was going to
yes.
happen. However, we have to admit to you, the people,
We didn't expect it to be
we
so
didn't
bad.
expect it to be so quick and nasty.
Yeah.
We figured they're going to screw up things as they go along because they're not democratic and they will harm the economy, harm the nation. But we said maybe by their midterm, 2.5 years and stuff, you'll start to see a decline. We never expect to see a decline from January 2016.
You have an attorney general saying the judges got to do what we want, and if you don't do what we want, we know what to do with you.
Exactly.
You know,
Sorry,
it is that kind of behavior. You know, I went to court with Mr. Nandalal.
Yes, I remember that.
on
Monday.
And I had to write to the newspaper. I mean, you have no statements. On what basis the man is charged? I shudder to think that if they don't like what I say on this program today, maybe a charge could come against me. Frank, be careful what you say. and I was reliably told that there is a process in place of cleaning up the Brick Dam Locket and the East La Penitent, so Gail Teixeira.
I've been there before.
Even if they clean up Brick Dam, but when they start cleaning up
La
East La
Penitence.
Penitent, you know, so women.
Well, they have
so
a women's
you
locker
have
there.
to start looking.
Well, you know, I was in there many years ago. I was taken there and
But
arrested.
those things, I think, wouldn't daunt people.
No,
I
it will
mean,
break our spirit.
I mean, they can try all kinds of fear tactics, but
Yeah.
that wouldn't work. The bottom line here is that you have a population that had expected change. They voted for this change, this so-called change. They didn't realize that this dream that was being peddled by AFC and APNU
Illusion.
would turn into this nightmare.
Yeah.
And in a very short period of time, we are in this nightmare. Imagine all these taxes that people have to pay. First of all, you have not really increased their salary. You have not looked out for the ordinary citizen of this country. You know, Mr. Barnum had a thing. He said he wanted to make the small man a real man. It seems like this coalition is going to make the small man a dead man.
Yeah.
Because, you know, all these taxes, and almost in every sector you find this assault happening.
Yeah.
People's rights being taken away, people's, you know, livelihood. Look at rice. Look at rice. They said, they promised the people $9,000 a bag.
Mr. Nago today, that's a good one.
And now we have the Prime Minister getting up in Parliament
So you never did.
and say, tell me when I say so. But you know what? The rice farmers
No,
know.
they know what
all
he
the
said.
meetings that they went to, all the programs where they were promised these things, and even their supporters who joined them to, to repeat this thing, they're now all surprised because they're saying, well, wait a minute, I helped to carry that message in the campaign, and
Yeah,
now you're telling
exactly.
me, wait, that you ain't doing this anymore?
Or you say you never said it, so I
And you
dreamt
never
it.
say it?
It is worrying how they could utter these bold,
Yeah.
brazen, and barefaced
Lies.
lies.
Exactly.
And
this
don't
thing
even
is-
blink. It is part of their DNA. It just seems to be part of their DNA.
You got barefacedness gone to a different level now.
Exactly, yeah.
yes.
This is probably state-sanctioned barefacedness.
No, that's a good one. But
Because
you have Alda too being asked in Parliament about, to do with her decision to move her office as the Minister of Public Health to the bond.
She
Right.
announced that.
She
in the-
announced it was in the press covered, and the reason why she was moving her office to keep a closer eye on the procurement of drugs
Exactly,
and
yeah.
the way in which the bond was being managed to wipe out all this nonsense that happened under Dr. Norton. We asked the question, has this in any way affected the management of drugs? She said she never said that, she never announced that she's going to go to the bond, relocate her
But
office.
in Parliament just Monday, Mr. Basil Williams was referring to rice farmers in Region 5 as thieves and beggars and so on. Ms. Prem Manichan twice had to
Yeah.
bring it to the
Upbraided him,
attention and complain to the Speaker and all the rest of it. And behave like if he never said so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I
But
mean,
you know-
everybody's hearing, the thing is being recorded live.
You know now what is very popular. They got this thing called fake news.
Yeah.
And you got alternative facts.
Yeah.
So it looked like we got a lot of local practitioners
Of fake news.
of fake news and alternative facts, and the whole day they're on it, right? So they tell you one thing, people hear all this for themselves, they experience it, and then a minute after they're telling you something totally different. Like if you weren't there, it's like,
But Comrade Gail, I think two things
I'm
we
watching
need.
my thing for the calling, yes.
Two things we need to mention quickly.
Yes.
We could talk about the executive
Yeah.
and the lawlessness of the executive. But part of the degenerating trend in the country is what is taking place at the legislative,
Yeah.
at the parliament. It is clear that the government has found a compliant speaker. As a compliant speaker, as a matter of fact, the abuses that I see take place in the parliament, I am appalled by it. Selective hearing and selective not hearing.
Yeah.
Refusal to rule even on matters when it is brought to your attention. Unilateral interference of members' motions and questions and businesses and editing and cutting and all the rest of it. And it looks like the government could run roughshod, but if an opposition member only expresses some outrage, you're being called, sanctioned, and don't let me call your name.
Yeah.
This
Yeah.
kind of a behavior,
You're intimidated.
it is clear that you're to go into the National Assembly and you better have behave yourself or I'll deal with you. Well, who's afraid? I remember just Monday, some of the comrades, almost like if it was spontaneous, oh, we are really afraid, we are really afraid, we are really afraid. I was shocked that so many people felt the same way. Are we children?
Yeah.
We are elected representatives of half of this nation.
Exactly.
And our election petition is contesting that we actually represent more than half of the nation and should be in government. And you are being treated as if you are nothing in the National Assembly.
Yeah.
This needs to stop and it needs to change. And this is part of the promise change. You know what's the change? My fist, might
Yeah.
is right. And the people of Guyana are seeing it. Even the supporters. That's why I'm asking, where are the green and yellow birds? Of course.
But I think people having lived in a democratic atmosphere under the PPPC understand that this kind of behavior, this kind of autocratic trends that the government is manifesting, that we would not tolerate it. People are accustomed to freedoms, people are accustomed to express themselves. And so when they're seeing what these guys are trying to do, they're resisting it. And I think that's a good thing. And if they feel by curtailing people from speaking and that sort of thing, that somehow people would be intimidated, this country have had freedom, and they don't want to go back to those dark days. And I think you will see more and more people talking up. That's why over the last 2 years you've seen so many protests. That's why people are continuing to express themselves. And the only other thing left for the government to do is to become more repressive.
Or to listen. They do have an alternative to respond and respond that,
Well-
that they can remove the VAT.
Yeah,
they can remove
yeah,
they can do
of
things.
course they can do that.
They can go back to abiding by
But they're
the procurement laws.
insensitive and
But
But
did
they're
you-
power drunk. They're power drunk.
But did you see the joke in the full page ad? They said they reduced the thing from 16 to 14%
Yes.
VAT, which is factual. But guess what? They're collecting billions more,
more, yes.
because now they've
Everything,
extended the
everything,
reach,
everything.
and you have more items being taxed. And so, what are you trying to? You're trying to hoodwink people again?
But look,
Yeah.
just look at one example. Monday Parliament and the movement of the barricades.
Yeah.
The government said that those barricades were extended because of what happened at the British Parliament.
Yeah.
Thankfully, the traffic chief came out and spoke the truth today. He told Stabrook News it's because of the protests they had to move the barricades. So instructions are being given now. Don't let protesters get too close towards the Parliament, because they knew that rice farmers, sugar workers, parking meters people, VAT and education people, used tires people, everybody's protesting against them. They're now repressing the people by pushing them away. Till to Regent Street, you can't come close till past Leopold Street, till down to Magnet Place, pushing the barricades, but they bought big screens and you have loudspeakers outside of the Parliament for people to view and hear,
And they
but you
can't
can't
get
get
close.
near.
You ain't got no
The
money.
Anyway,
nature and
they-
character of the government.
But the technicians are warning me. I have 2 minutes left. I want to say that we're going to continue this next Thursday, because we then are on the eve of independence, and there are many issues there that still have to be dealt with. And I know that you're probably very annoyed with me for not taking your calls. And I know today that there are a lot of very angry people out there to do with the arch going up and the very, very stupid arrangements that were made in terms of traffic control. And so taxis are furious, the trucks and the vehicles, they could have done it better, they could have done it with greater notice. Most people only saw the notice yesterday or
do it
last
early
night.
in the morning.
They can do it late at night with big lights. They could do it on Sunday when the traffic is less. But you have huge trucks and containers
Social
stuck on the
cohesion
road.
today.
And of course, everything had to be cleared for the Arthur Chung, center, because the cars with the sirens and the outriders had to get in there, which compounded the problem. So even simple things, and we'll talk about this arch next week too, and what it means. But even a simple thing of putting up an arch, they can't get it right. And so if they can't get these simple things right, how are they going to run a country? How are they going to run an economy? And explain what's going on. We will say that, and we will probably come back the next week and come back to this issue, that we're witnessing levels of executive lawlessness and abuse, the lack of transparency and accountability, the soaring levels of corruption, the undermining of the Constitution and human rights, including in the Parliament, in the National Assembly, all are factors which are contributing to what are hallmarks of the making of an authoritarian or police state. The only thing that can put a brake on the government is the voices of the people, you, the people. This is what led to October 5th, 1992, the first free and fair elections in 28 years, and we shall do it again. We must not be intimidated. We recognize the level of disappointment in many of the APNU AFC supporters, and we tell them that, do not be afraid. We are here, the PPP and the PPC, to represent all people of Guyana without fear or favor. And Guyana is our first concern, to make it back and to make sure that the country moves forward, to stop the slippage and the decline that we're experiencing as a nation. APNU AFC on its second anniversary should be ashamed of themselves. They should bury their hands and go to the people of this country and say, we are sorry, we apologize, we will try to fix it. No, what do they say to you? Patience. Time will tell. as Amna said, in 2 years' time, you will have the good life. Wait, and keep waiting while you get hungry belly, while you pay more taxes. So thank you very much. And I know that the next program, I'm going to have my ears wrung off by all of you callers that I haven't given you a chance. I want to thank Dr. Attany for being on my program, my colleague, and also my colleague, Bishop Edghill. We're here to serve the people, and on this program, on matters of public importance, we're here to bring you what are matters of importance to you, the Guyanese people. Remember, I always tell you, don't drink and drive. We want to make sure that we're all safe, and of course, in terms of the next 3 years, we want to make sure all our people are there to vote and vote for democracy and to remove an undemocratic regime. You take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. Enjoy yourself with your families. Have a blessed week. And we will see you back here on Thursday, 12:30, right here to continue our discussion on the second anniversary of the APNU AFC. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye. Ciao.